All right. Hello, everyone. It's nice to see everybody again. I haven't met everybody in the room yet, but certainly during lunch and afterward, if you would like to chat, I'm always very interested in hearing what other people are doing in their businesses with Creatio and other tools, and we probably could find a lot to talk about. In fact, quick introduction. So as I mentioned earlier, before coming to the animal health industry, I spent about 17 years working for Microsoft. I'm going to give you a quick disclaimer there. I spent 17 years managing business intelligence and analytics, not PowerPoint. So when you see my slides, just know that the parts of the slides that look nice are because of the help that I got from Creatio's marketing team. The parts of the slides that look like a 5-year-old picked out the color combinations, that's all me. No. So also one other kind of interesting thing about my background, before Microsoft, one of my first jobs out of university was working for a company that made donor management software for nonprofit organizations. So very specialized customer relationship management system, specifically for trying to solicit more donations and keep the donations coming in. It gave me kind of a nice perspective on CRMs in general. And one of the things that I think is really kind of interesting about it is that company never had an event like this. They discussed very often whether or not they wanted to actually host their own customer base community, and they didn't because they didn't want their customers talking. So that tells you an awful lot about a company if they don't want their customers to talk amongst themselves, and it gives me kind of a neat perspective for a lot of stuff with Creatio. So Vitaquinol, as I mentioned earlier, we are an old company. We were founded in 1933 in France. So technology at the time was that you were on the cutting edge if you had a phone, right? Especially in rural France where Vitaquinol was established. We make products that are both pharmaceuticals for companion animals and large animals. We make products that are nutraceuticals, meaning that you don't need a prescription to get them, but they work on your dog or your cat's health. One of our best-selling products, as an example, is a product called Propectolin, which you give to your dog if your dog has eaten something bad and has diarrhea. This is our anti-diuretic, and we call it the number one choice for a solid number two. It's a much more entertaining industry than being in software, I can tell you. So we also make things that you give to your dog or your cat when they're post-surgery, things that help heal faster without antibiotics, things to help with renal health, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's a great industry. I really enjoy working for Vitaquinol. It's probably the best company culture I've ever worked for. But who's familiar with, I think there are people that are the right age in here to be familiar with the book Surfing on the Edge of Chaos. Anybody remember that one? It was a book about, the analogy was that companies that are on the cutting edge of technology, they're surfing right on that wild edge of the animal health industry. The book that's applicable would be driving within 50 miles of the beach, very carefully and responsibly. We are not the industry that embraces being on the edge of technology, which is why I really love our partnership with Creatio and our technological transformation. Because after being at Vitaquinol for 3 years, I can say quite honestly that we are now a technology-based company, and the culture, especially within Vitaquinol USA, but around the world as well, is that we rely on technology to be a strategic differentiator in our business success, particularly our use of data. And that would not be the case without Creatio and some of our integrations. So this is the cutting edge of technology for most of the animal health industry, Microsoft Excel. This is kind of where the industry was 5 years ago, or 3 years ago in 2019. I would say that we were on par with about 1985. The one good thing is we did use the internet already. We didn't have acoustic phone modems or anything like that, but we do still use a lot of fax. That's also part of the industry. This was probably the typical workspace in a lot of animal health industry offices. It reminds me a lot of high school, especially the 5.25-inch discs. I think we probably still have some of those lying around in our office. Fortunately, the jam boxes still work as well, so that we can keep our 1985 music, as that's the part that I think we need to preserve. But let's go on. So about 3-4 years ago, Vitaquinol decided we need to move from our homegrown CRM to something that is more enterprise class, something that is a company that specializes. And we had some pretty basic criteria for it. We want it to be user-friendly, right? We have an awful lot of people in our organization that don't really want to have to use a computer for anything. So this has to be user-friendly software. It has to be flexible. I mentioned earlier, part of the philosophy for my teams is that the tools need to adapt to the business. We do not want the business to ever be constrained by the capabilities of the tools, right? Cost effective, pretty obvious one. Strongly supported, that's a big one. Once again, especially with us being in a not really technologically apt industry, we need to have good support. And this is a really key differentiator with us between Creatio and, say, some more established companies that they are severely competing with now. We knew right away that if we were a customer of Microsoft Dynamics or Salesforce, we're going to be the smallest, customer in their base. It's going to be very difficult to get really good comprehensive support. Creatio has been an excellent support partner, and we've always been able to get the answers to the challenges that we've had. Cross-department, that's another big one. As I'll mention later, Creatio ties together a lot of departments that within Vitaquinol that have not necessarily been as closely collaborative as they should be in the past. And then revenue growth focused. This is a big key one to me that coming from the business intelligence world, it's very important to me that data become that strategic differentiator. Your data is as big of an asset as your people, your products, and all of the other things that you spend money on in the business. So you need to use that data to actually drive more business. And of course, at the heart of it, we want the CRM to be customer centric, right? Goes without saying, but actually still bears some help. So 3 years later, Creatio is now our official tool for recording customer interactions. Obviously, that's the main activity in there, but it's also a critical marketing tool. The US Vitaquinol business sends out probably at least 3 email marketing campaigns a week, and we have some extremely sophisticated ones that are doing a lot of logic, a lot of decision making based on the customer's activity, both their sales activity and interaction with our company, to determine what email should they get next. And the beauty of it is that these very sophisticated and complex marketing campaigns, once again, no code, right? In fact, it's not even my teams. I actually have dedicated IT and BI people on my teams, but they're not the ones creating the marketing campaigns, because the no-code interface is so easy to use that, not to imply that marketing people are any worse with computers than anyone else, but they don't specialize in email campaigns and coding, right? If I told the marketing folks, we need you to go learn C# so that you can just go ahead and program some marketing campaigns, they'd look at me with blank eyes and then go tell my boss that Jeff has no idea what he's doing. But here we can introduce our marketing teams to the no-code campaign system, and they're up and running in no time. Facilitating interdepartmental strategy. One of the best things about the way that Creatio has changed our business and our technological journey is that now when we have something new happen, like say we just launched a new product that is very innovative and it's defined a new product space in our industry. So we have to figure out how is each department going to interact with this launch and this product. A lot of our processes and our process discussions start with what can we use the CRM for in this product focus versus what should be elsewhere. That tells you how ingrained Creatio now is in Vitaquinol. System of record for key customer information. This is a really big one for us, and it is different from being the official tool for recording interactions. We get a lot of data from outside sources at Vitaquinol, and we need some place to store that data and make it readily available to people around the company. Well, my team does not include app developers. We do use O365, and we use things like Power Automate. I've got some really, really talented technology people on my team, but we don't want to be in the business of building our own applications from the ground up. That's not our business, and that would be a large expenditure that we don't want to invest in. So when we get some outside data or we have some new process that we have to manage, we find that almost every time Creatio is the system that we can modify to have the functionality that we need. So more on that later. It's also a fully integrated component of our business intelligence ecosystem. As I was kind of joking about earlier in the keynote area, I went from Microsoft, where data is moving from one SQL Server box to another every 15 minutes, and people are getting near real-time reports, to the animal health industry, where people say, I sent you last month's Excel file, isn't that good enough? And I swear sometimes they would actually copy it to a floppy disk and mail you the floppy disk. Now with something like Creatio, we actually use the DMS application from Process First, which here's our Process First people are actually here with us. If you're intrigued by this, certainly talk to me or them about what we do with this. But we have made it so that our data moves between Creatio and our SQL Server BI system. In the US, we actually have a 3 or 4 time a day data dump to get some really fast reporting on key subjects. And in many of our subsidiaries, we're doing at least nightly transfers. And all of my business stakeholders think that I am the most impressive wizard in the technological world because of this. It's great. It takes me about 10 minutes to configure something like this, and my boss thinks that, my gosh, Jeff must have stayed up all night, every night for a week to get this to work. One of the nice things about being in not a really high-tech industry. Unfortunately, they're also learning, so can't really fool them for much longer with that kind of thing. So, step one of our success journey here, sales team adoption. Right? This is the hardest thing. As everybody knows, if you have bad data coming in, you get no insights or information coming out. So we need the sales team, who are the biggest producers of data, to be really invested. And the key way to do that, of course, is to show them a little bit of value. Basically what I promised them up front was, if you do a good job of using this tool, we are going to be able to make sales for you while you're asleep. The marketing tools, what the marketing team can do, we can automate a lot of the actual sales work. Likewise, we can run your data through our analytical engines and give you targeted concepts of where to go. Each of our sales managers has anywhere from 800 to 1,200 managed accounts in their territory, so they have to pick and choose mindfully where are they going to go and spend their time. Right? We have an analytical engine that my team created called Babs, which for the BI geeks in the room, Babs is named after Charles Babbage, the father of differential engines. For the 70s music fans in the room, I tell people that Babs is named after Barbra Streisand. You can choose for yourself which one really applies. But Babs does some great analytical stuff, deciding that this clinic, this territory manager should go to this clinic tomorrow because they're 5 days overdue on their normal buying pattern for this product, et cetera. Well, we push that into Creatio every night so that now when the territory manager wakes up in the morning, instead of saying, well, I think I should go here and here and here, or I think I should plan a trip to this part of my region, they look and see, Bab says I should go to these 10 first, And once again, Creatio is the linchpin for this, fully integrated part of the BI system, using DMS to move that data back and forth between the systems. It's one of the best contributions that we've seen in our system. So contact management, of course, also in there. Lots of proprietary data, our external data that we have in there. Basically, the sales team sees that this is going to make a big difference in their lives. So I wanted to throw something in there about somebody that I met years ago named Dorothy. Way back when I first started out in donor management, what I found at a nonprofit organization in Omaha when I went in to find out what database do you already have, because I need to convert it over to the data system that my company sold. So, how does your database work? And their question was, what's a database? Well, it turns out that this particular nonprofit, their database was an 80-year-old woman named Dorothy. And Dorothy literally kept track of all of the people that made donations to this place over a 25-year period with index cards in shoeboxes. Okay? And they had a room in their office that was just hundreds of shoeboxes filled with thousands of cards. And this woman could go through them and find somebody that donated in 1987, and cross-index and everything. It was amazing. She was like a human computer herself, right? The problem is, of course, Dorothy is not a very sustainable model. And that led me to always have this concept in mind for technology. How easily can we customize it? That's Dorothy, the red dot over there on the right. Dorothy, boy, she could customize anything in a heartbeat, do a custom query for you, whatever. Stability over time, not so great. She might decide at some point to retire. There could be a fire and the entire thing is gone, whatever. Now, these other dots over here on the left, these are companies like the one that I worked for, or Razor's Edge, or many others that were really well known at the time for donor management. They were fantastically stable. Customization was something that they would start laughing about if you asked them, how quickly can you customize your software? They'd tell you, maybe you're running your business wrong, right? If you need our software to do something differently, you probably don't know how to run your business. So the yellow star is where I think that Creatio is for us today. And I'm actually going to go back into that customization here in a second. Flexibility is key. See the little checkbox over there that says Fovea lamp deal? This is a great example of where we've got a new product that we're launching, and we need to know something very specific about this product. It's a two-piece product, a piece of equipment, a lamp, and then a consumable, chromatophore gel. We need to know all the time how many of the veterinary clinics in the US have one of these lamps, right? Well, Creatio didn't start out with a Fovea lamp checkbox in there, right? We had to customize that. And the reason that strikes me as such a great example, that one little checkbox, is that for anybody that's customized, who's done customization work, by the way, so far in Creatio to their UI? Excellent. Okay, so this will be news for the majority of you. That checkbox from start to finish of prototyping it the way that was being described earlier, prototyping it, testing it, governance, getting it published for the users to use, 1 hour. And that's because we were being very careful testing. We were always very careful testing, and because I stopped to watch an episode of Game of Thrones in the middle of it. So I used the excuse that we were waiting for people to send their feedback, but truth is I wanted to see how that episode turned out. So 1 hour, including my messing around time. So traditional software, though, back where I worked in 1997, user would submit a request for a checkbox like that, and there'd be some sort of CAB that went on, right? Some sort of change approval board. Then the DBA would have to change the back end in the database, and then there'd be some testing. And then the UI developer would come back from vacation, and then he or she would make the change to the front end, and there'd be some testing. And then there's more testing, and then someone would have to send out the physical media, of course, to install this somewhere. I remember this process quite vividly when I had to go do help with a sales pitch to a customer in Toronto, and they asked, "Can you handle Canadian addresses?" And what's the salesman say when they hear that? Of course, yeah, why not? Yeah, we can, And then he sends back a message that night to the office saying, "Hey, we can do this, right?" Yeah. So, okay, sure we can. So it takes a month to do, and we now have forked variations of the software that we have to manage among different clients. Whereas here in Creatio, these changes are literally a few minutes, right? Oh yeah, sorry, there's the other one. It's Stanley Cup playoff time, so sometimes our developments are a little bit delayed by a good game being on. So very soon here, when we're in that dead time between the end of hockey and the beginning of football, then our development work will go a lot faster. But literally minutes or hours versus days and months. BI integration. We use a SQL Server BI system, and we have Power BI reports that we create from that. Fully integrated, like I said, the process first application that we use is fantastic, taking data out and pushing data back in, and we can have our Power BI reports. In some cases, we're using dashboards in Creatio, but in other cases, we're actually funneling our Power BI reports through Creatio so that the users can experience all of our reporting in one place. And then marketing. Here's an example of my favorite marketing campaign. We do this in the first quarter of every year. We have for 12 weeks a tiered promo where if the customers buy certain products at different thresholds, they earn different prize levels. So every week, every customer gets an email through Creatio that says, hey, you've bought this much. Congratulations, you achieved this prize level. Did you know that if you just buy this much more, you'll be at this prize level, right? And by the way, here's your salesperson's address or email address and phone number. Here's the phone number for your inside sales rep, et cetera. I particularly like putting this up in front of people, my stakeholders that don't know anything about computers, because they look at it and they think, good Lord, that must take a university degree in computer science to build that, right? I'm like, no, not only was it built in about an hour, it was built by a marketing person, not by an IT professional or a developer. And I can tell you, it has had a significant impact on the ROI for that promo. Telesales. We just launched our first telesales department at Vitaquinol USA very recently here. 2 big success stories with it. Number one, we didn't have to develop a telesales module in the US because our Polish subsidiary has already embarked on telesales a year ago, and it takes all of 5 minutes to move their module from the Polish instance over to the US instance and the UK instance and the Canadian instance. The only delay there, as you've probably guessed, is that we did have to actually translate it from Polish to English. At first, we considered just hiring telesales people who speak Polish, but decided that maybe that's not the best business model change in Texas. So aside from that translation work, sharing that between subsidiaries is fantastically easy. And then, as you can see down here in our middle section, we've added some components into Creatio to tell our very new telesales people, this is who we want you to call, which product we want you to push to them, and here's why. It's fantastic seeing them have that kind of direction, and right off the bat making 30 or 40 calls a day rather than having them go through and try to do their own target selection. So the end result, we have a no-code CRM that's driving business and increasing our success. And that's the biggest key, those last 2 words, increasing success. We understand our customers better than we ever have before. Our customer-facing activities have increased have increased substantially. Our culture has changed. There are people in our office who, in the past, wanted nothing to do with technology that now will say, man, I can't believe that every animal health company doesn't have this. And the new people that come to our company are knocked over by the tools we have available for them. Our departments collaborate together so much more. We've always had a really good culture of that in our company, but it's been noticeably improved by Creatio tying things together. And as I mentioned earlier, we've successfully transformed into a company that uses data as a strategic differentiator. And we can see the results in our year-over-year, both revenue, profitability, and other secondary metrics like our reach within the market, our ownership of market share, and things like that. There's been a very clear impact from our technological journey, and Creatio has been right at the heart of it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, sir. Thank you.